All right, the portal, I think, is open until Friday. I think it's open until the 26th. I could be wrong on that date. Somebody wants to correct me. That's totally fine. But open for about another week. I would expect more entries into the portal. It honestly, I kind of expected a couple of more, and then everything that happened on campus on Thursday, which again we'll talk about in a little bit. I think that might have slowed some things down. I'm not trying to make light of a situation, but I think that might have caused the pause on really everything athletically for Florida State for a few days, from visits to athletic events and everything else. So I expect more entries. I don't know how many impact guys there will be. I'm honestly not sweating the 3 wide receivers too much. The Jaylen Brown one's kind of frustrating, but the other guys, I think that was best for both parties. I will talk about one player specifically that has been rumored and certainly folks have been concerned about. But I will tell you this. I have been told for like 2 years that Mike Norvell was going to be a little bit more direct in exit interviews, and that he was actually going to lay out and be like, dude, like, you're not going to play here. Like, I think what has happened with Norvell is he's too nice, and he's kind of like, well, you might be able to fight your way back up. I've not been in these meetings. I don't know. So I'm kind of just, freestyling this a little bit, but that he's a little bit too nice in some of these exit interviews. And it's like, well, you might find playing time somewhere else. You might be able to battle your way back here, but he's just not direct enough because he's a little bit of a nice guy, right, on this. And needs to be a little more killer, needs to be a little more cutthroat. I've been told, it's also been reported that he has been much more like, hey, dog, you're not going to play here. So you need to jump in you're not going to play here, and we can't give you any more NIL money. Like, if you want to stay for the vibes, stay for the vibes, but like, we can't invest any more money into you. You've been here for 2 or 3 years. I'm not telling you that's exactly what happened with Hakeem, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were a little bit more direct on that one. I think he's having more of those conversations now, which I appreciate, right? You hate to see guys go. You hate to look back and say, like, man, that was a bust, for whether at the recruiting level or the transfer portal level. But it's needed, especially in a year where Norvell's got to go out and win. If you can thin out the roster a little bit and get rid of kind of the, I hate to be a jerk, but kind of some of the dead weight to open up spots for guys that can come in and make an impact, whether it's this year or in the future, right? You can take a guy that doesn't do anything this year, but you believe in where he's going to be in the future. Development still is okay. They don't have to be instant impact guys year one. Earl Little might be a good example of that this year, if he does end up being what people expect. I like the strategy of being a little bit more direct. And I think we've been waiting on it for like 2 years. And maybe with the heat up on Norvell's seat, maybe it's finally here.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, because I do think that, Mike Norvell, he's a very nice guy. Like, you and I both have had one-on-ones with him and met him. And, I think he's finally found the time to where he needs to say and just be brutally honest with these players, right? Like, if you're a guy that's not going to play at Florida State, he needs to let them know that. And I think he's finally to that point. I think it might be a little bit too much too late, quite frankly. Hopefully not. I would love Norvell to be successful at Florida State. I'm just not sure that's going to happen. But yeah, I think he understands that his job is on the line, and he needs to get through these kids' heads. Like, you were either a part of the problem or a part of the solution. And I think he's finally to the point where he's being honest with these players. And I think that's very important.
So one name that has been kind of rumored or thrown around is Daryl Jackson. Would you say Daryl Jackson is the best player on the team right now?
I'd say he has the highest NFL potential.
Yeah, like he could be, and you never know how a season plays out, right? I mean, you remember even as good as Sapp was, like Sapp's numbers were never like insane because he got double teamed every game. Yeah. And so guys like, remember Chidi Ahana too, and obviously Simeon Rice and Booger McFarland, they'd always have great stats because of what was happening to Sapp. But I do think like on impact on the game, obviously quarterback's always going to be up there, good or bad. If you have a wide receiver or running back that goes off, they'll be up there as well. I think impact on the game, Daryl Jackson might be the most important player on the team. It'd be him or Castellanos, right? And I think Jackson's much better than Castellanos, just the style of play that we'll have this year. It would probably lean toward quarterback more, but if you kind of exclude, obviously your quarterback is the most important player on your team. Daryl Jackson might be the most important player on Florida State's team. Seems like there's rumors that he may be entertaining offers, or he may be open to listening to different NIL things. And look, I got to tell you, I'll say this not in a super negative way. I want to say, like, first of all, I don't even care at this point. It's just like,
It's
dude,
new.
do what you got to do. I don't think it'd be great for Florida State if he entered the portal. I also think that I don't know if I don't know if I say like, oh, Jackson enters the portal, I'm going from 7 wins down to 5 wins now. I don't think it's, oh, he stays, I'm going from 6 wins to 9 wins. I don't know that happens. But I do think that it's a bad sign if you lose potentially the best player on your roster, right? A guy that you've now invested 2.5 years worth into. You've had to pay him for 2.5 years. Like, he wasn't just sitting here for free when you got him from Miami. And even though he sat out a year. So he's a guy that you've had to allocate or schedule a scholarship to, a roster spot to, and a guy that you're really counting on this year. Obviously, you hope that Florida State, with bringing in a new D-line coach, still having Odell there, still having a lot of ties, being on this roster a couple of years, being able to go the NIL route, you'd hope that they can keep him. But I don't necessarily know that I want Florida State to break the bank to keep him. I think that sets a bad precedent. I don't think they'd have to go anywhere near like what Nico was asking or anything dumb like that. But I think this is, I guess, what's the concern level, right, on your side?
Zero. It's one of those situations where this has been every single year with this guy. Obviously, do I want him at Florida State? Absolutely. I think he has tremendous talent. I just said I think he's one of the few NFL talents you have on the roster. But at the same time, if you're going to hold the college hostage every single year, at some point you have to say, okay, go get what you can get. Go back to Miami. Go somewhere else. At this point, would I love him to be the starting defensive tackle at Florida State? Absolutely. But at the same time, I don't think you can let one player hold your team hostage, especially it's not like Florida State's going to compete for national title this year. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. You're competing for a 7-8 win season, and if Daryl Jackson decides to leave, so be it. And that's at this point, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I will say this. I'll clarify this. I don't think he's doing a thing where like he's holding I don't think he went in like, oh, I think it's more so like being tampered with. And if you're getting tampered with, like, you're going to listen, and I don't blame any of these kids for listening to what their, what the potential is. So I don't think it's quite the same situation as like Jackson and Peyton and Farmer and stuff in other seasons. So I will give him some grace on that. But I mean, if Georgia comes and offers you twice what you're making to go compete for a champion, I mean, if somebody offered you twice what you were making right now to cover UGA, you'd be like,
sign me up.
See you, dog. So I mean, I will give him that grace. But it wouldn't be a great thing for Mike Norvell, who is very much counting on him to be the anchor of that, not only defense, but certainly the defensive line this year. I will say this too, not in a super negative way. I think after a 2-10 season, there's so many questions around like what this team can be, what they're going to do with a brand new roster that I don't. Is there anybody on this team that you would? I don't mean this like you just don't care about anybody. So I'll say this like somewhat nicely. But who would you be the most upset if they jumped in the portal right now?
Nobody. I'm serious. Like it, and I hate to say it like that because if you were to ask me this question in 2013, it'd be a much different answer.
Oh, for sure. Or 2023 too. Yeah.
Yeah, you had so many players, but there's nobody that if they hopped in the portal that I'm like, okay, season's done. Like we're not going to have a good season by Florida State standards, right? And that's kind of what I judge it on because I think Florida State standards should be playoff contention every single year, especially with a 12-team playoff. And I do not see any way that this team is going to compete for a 12-team playoff. So, yeah, there's nobody that could leave that is just going to upset me to the point where I'm like, oh, my goodness, that just cost us our chance at a playoff because we're not making the playoff, TJ. It's just not happening.
So I agree with it from that perspective. I also think I wouldn't be upset for that. But I also, if we start to lose guys and it takes our wins from 7 down to 3, that's
an issue.
That's where. So you do have to keep guys, but I agree with but I do agree with your sentiment of like, I don't know that there's one player. I mean, maybe Castellanos would be high just because I have no faith, behind him, and that probably does take your win total from 7 to under 6, or 7.5 to under 6. That would be one that not that I'm just completely entrenched with loving Castellanos or anything like that, but that is one that I'd be like, now I have no reason to think that there's any chance of that happening, but he would be the one that I think you'd be like, dang, we were putting a lot of eggs into that basket. I don't, Jackson leaves. You have other guys that can kind of step up. Maybe you can find somebody else. I don't know. I have no clue, but that would be one that I think if your quarterback was to go, that would not be great. But we'll see. Not trying to paint the worst picture ever. Maybe Jackson is, I think it's honestly, to be very fair with you, I think it's more likely that he stays than he goes, but you never know. Today's college football is very, very stupid. And I saw Cal lost 5 running backs within like 24 hours. So you truly never know what's going to happen. And with about a week of the portal left, we will hope and pray for the best at Florida State. I don't blame guys for trying to up their NIL bag or go to better situations either. No. I hope it's not. This very well could be Mike Norvell's last season. I don't blame guys and it's Jackson's last season one way or the other, right? Whether it's Norvell's or not. But I don't blame guys for trying to put themselves in a better situation, because we would all certainly do that.